Well, a Somali American is being investigated for a possible hate crime after he allegedly tried to run over two men who were leaving a synagogue in Los Angeles. Now, guns take the blame for mass violence most of the time, but as this latest attack shows, guns don't cause people to act violently. They can make it easier, but they're not the reason for violence. What is the reason exactly? Nicholas Giordano is a professor at Suffolk Community College, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thank you very much for coming on.
Hi,
so
Doctor.
Lost in the debate over gun control, which I think is interesting. We engage in it a lot on this show, and it's worth having. But it doesn't address what's actually happening. Why are people doing this? Why are they doing it?
Because they're either intellectually lazy or they're just flat out lying, because the numbers don't lie. If you look back about 50 years ago, there was virtually no gun control laws. There were more households that had guns, and there were hardly any mass shootings. So you have to look at what has changed in our society, and you have to look at our culture and what's with the dehumanization and the loss of value of human life. And if you look at it, in the 1990s, the late 90s, the internet goes mainstream and we start to see the modern day mass shooter. Go into the 2000s, you see social media emerge. Not only do you see social media emerge, it becomes mainstream. You see an increase in mass shootings. You also see a 30% increase, that's a CDC number, of people committing suicide between the ages of 10 to 34. That's CDC numbers. And so we have to look at social media and the internet as a whole. That's affecting our culture. It's changing our culture. And one of the problems is we don't communicate human to human anymore. Instead, It's human to machine to human. And we lose our empathy, we lose our compassion and our humanity. The internet was supposed to make us a community. What it's done is make us strangers living amongst each other. And that's one of the big problems that we're seeing. We're more isolated than ever before. We see the rhetoric get extremely nasty. Just go to any news article and look at the third comment and people already calling each other names. They're not debating issues. And part of the reason is because we only seek out information that agrees with us. It agrees our point of view. And so when someone disagrees with us, we don't really know how to handle it anymore.
So why, I mean, what you're saying is so clearly true. I don't know to what extent it's causing the spike in violence, but certainly it's partly responsible, but we never debate it. No one ever mentions what you just said. Why?
Because we try and avoid, because we always think that government may have an answer for us, that we could always point to the government and government could solve the problem. But what happens if the government can't solve the problem? What happens if our culture is changing and it's changing for the worse? And that becomes a much more difficult situation.
Yeah.
And that's what social media is creating. It's creating this environment where we're so isolated. You're seeing anxiety, depression skyrocket, and that's been proven. Studies have been done that social media is causing the anxiety and the depression to increase. We're having more problems today than ever before. And look at it. The technology was supposed to make our lives better. It was supposed to make our lives easier. And it's made it more complex. And it's because we don't use it responsibly. We're human beings. We're flawed. Therefore, everything we touch is also flawed. And that's the problem with social media that we're seeing today.
Thank you for adding to that conversation, which I think should increase. Professor, thanks a lot.
I appreciate it.